Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to An Elegant Weapon, episode 371. My name is J.M. Clark, J the Jedi Ross, Ross Jedi J. And as always, it is so wonderful to have all you beautiful babies here with me in the Smoking Pod studio. Tonight, kids, very exciting times. If I can figure out what the hell I'm doing here. Boom. Yeah, we're hanging out here, kids, tonight. We've got a new friend. His name is Todd Black. He is here. He is the writer of Tokyo Blade Detectives. Had a little read of issues 1 and 2 today, and I very much so enjoyed it. Super fun book. Todd, how are you?
Hello there.
Welcome to the show, my friend. It's good to meet you.
Good to meet you. I'm honored to be here.
I'm just trying to figure out here. This is always the most awkward part of the show. I'm still trying to figure out of how to share it on different pages.
Take your time. We're good.
Boom. So where are you out of? Where are you existing right now?
I'm in Illinois right now.
Okay, right on.
Yeah.
You're Chicago, close to Chicago, or
close enough. Close
right
enough.
On.
Yeah, I actually went to college there.
Oh, cool. Chicago. Are you originally from Illinois? Like,
yeah,
born and raised.
Born and raised in Illinois. And
I was just there in February for C2E2.
I was there too.
Yeah. You were one of the lucky ones then. We were one of the few who actually got to experience a larger scale Comic-Con this year. Eh?
The irony of that event compared to now is just profound. Because for those of you who weren't there, we were told, okay, COVID's coming and, you should protect yourself. And then there were certain people in Artist Alley, which is where I was at. They were like, hey, if you come to my table, we'll talk to death, but, like elbow bumps or fist bumps, no shaking hands. And we were like, that's fine. But like, aren't you overreacting just a little bit? And then like 3 weeks later, bam.
Totally. It was, yeah, you're right. It was just starting. We were just starting with the fist bumps and people were just being a little bit cautious. But I mean, it felt like pretty much any other Comic-Con, but you're right. It came down like a...
The only masks you were wearing is if we were wearing cosplay.
Right. I was really lucky in February because I got C2E2, Fan Expo Vancouver, and Astronomicon all in. And all in like 3 weeks. And it was like a big boom start to the year. And I was so excited about 2020. And then it all went away.
I was about to have the busiest time in my con career. I was going to have 4 cons in 5 weeks. I was going to have C2E2 and then a local con called Peoria Con, which went very well. And then 2 weeks after that was supposed to be Planet Comic Con and then another local con. And then I was like 8 days away from Planet Comic Con, which I've been trying to get into for years. I finally got in. I was already planning everything. And then I get a word from a friend of mine who's also named Todd. And he's like, hey, brother, we're just letting you know they're going to cancel it because of COVID. And I'm like, no. And now I have like 1 con left this year. If it happens, it's in November in Michigan. And I'm like, it's 50-50. That's even going to happen.
What show would that be?
It's a Grand Rapids Comic Con.
They're still thinking about doing Grand Rapids, eh?
Well, but it's in November, so they have time to plan. It's like Planet was supposed to now be in August, but because of everything going on and the fact that it's just not getting better, they're like, we're not even going to risk it. We're going to cancel. So that's why I said it's 50-50 right now. More than likely, they're going to cancel unless things just get better. I don't like our chances. And I mean, even if they did do it, it's a risk because like anyone who goes been to a big con. This is a big con in Michigan. I went there the first time last year. They're talking thousands of people together and close proximity and lines and
Fan Expo, the fine people behind Fan Expo here in Toronto. Our Fan Expo in August, September, Labor Day weekend was canceled, of course.
Yeah.
But they are considering in November trying a special kind of exclusive show where it's like very few people and they're like saying straight up it'll be very hard to get into. It'll be half the vendors because it'll have to be every other table and it'll be severe precautions. I'm slightly optimistic because we are in a pretty good situation here in Canada where we are kind of on the fence where I can look at November and think maybe we might be able to pull something like that off. things are a little bit more touchy down your side
Yeah.
of the border.
Yeah.
So,
We're
but
we're
it's
not doing
hard,
good.
man. Because normally
Mm.
I would Grand Rapids, I would be there. I mean, it's been 2, 3 years since I've went, just because it's on the other side of Michigan. It's kind of hard for me to get to.
Yeah.
But
That's why
most of the
I go, because I'm not driving all the way up the Glove. It's like right there. And I'm like, I can do that.
Right. Yeah. See, I'm only like 3.5 hours from the Novi side of Michigan. So like
Mm.
Motor City Comic Con's like 3, 4 hours for me.
Yeah.
So that side of Michigan, anything happens, I'm definitely there. And I can't be. And I don't know if I'll be able to for years, man. Like I might be kind of on this stranded island of Source Point Press North all by
As
myself for quite a while.
and as a wise man once said, I've got a bad feeling about this.
Nice. Nice.
I'm dropping
It,
as many Obi-Wan liners as I can.
Hey, bring them, man. This is the most appropriate show for a comic creator to do such. So, it's kind of cool. I haven't actually done this in a while where I've had someone on the show that I don't know at all, have never met before, and am not familiar with. So this is cool because we can go right back to your origin story. So
Okay.
tell me a little bit about when comics came into your life and when the
Gosh.
passion began.
Well, I'm not gonna lie. My real passion happened when I was about, I don't know, 4 to 6 years old. It's kind of hard. I've tried to sleep since then. But my dad got me into Batman the animated series, like the original, the classic, the Eternal. And that's when I started learning about comic book characters. And of course, from that came Superman and X-Men and Spider-Man animated series and all of them. But comics wise, like actually reading the comics, I didn't do that till I was like 18. And it wasn't that I didn't want to read, it's just I didn't know if I had access because I'm in small town USA more or less. And so, I thought, oh, there's not a lot of comic stores near me. And there was a Marvel event about to happen called Dark Reign, where basically Norman Osborn takes over the world. And I was like, you know what, that really kind of sounds cool. I kind of want to read. And I've been hearing about Final Crisis because that just ended and Batman died
Right.
and everything. And I was like, let's just look up comic stores. And I found out there's like one 10 minutes away from me. And
Right.
I was like, idiot. So I start reading in there and I just start getting ideas. And I had already had an idea for a superhero. I called it a movie series at the time. And I was like, I can do that. And so I went to C2E2, which is my very first Comic Con, because like I told you before the podcast, I went to college in Chicago, so I was right there for C2E2. And I went to a Marvel panel called Making Comics the Marvel Way. And on the panel was Matt Fraction. And he was doing Iron Man at the time. And I was like, what would you tell a guy who wants to make comics as a writer and just trying to start out? And he goes, if you want to make comics, go find an artist and make comics. About 2 years later, still looking. I finally got a job because like apparently you have to pay people to make comics. I had no idea. So it took me a while. I saved up some money and I made my first series called Guardians, and I used the first 3 issues of that to nearly bankrupt myself and learn the hard way how to make comics and what not to do. So then I took a break and I came back and I've been making comics ever since. I have with Tokyo, the first 2 issues, I'm about 32 comics to my name.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, I apparently
Wow.
have more than certain professionals, which makes me feel both good and horrified because it's like
Well, that's
I haven't
quite
been hired yet.
prolific. Yeah. So is it mainly self-published then,
Yeah,
or
oh,
what's been the route for you? Have you done a lot of
I
Kickstarters or
yeah, I've done a little
on a
bit of
paper
everything.
route?
I did, I used to have a paper out actually, multiple. I've done like a little bit of everything. I started making comics because I realized that Comixology had their Submit program. This is like year one of
Right.
Comixology Submit, and so I submitted my stuff to them, and I didn't realize it would take like 8 months to actually get on the website. So I had to learn the hard way about that. Then I realized, oh, I can have actually my own website and I could sell the comics there. So that's what I did. I wrote 20 issues of Guardians, just paying out of pocket.
Wow.
And yeah, like I said, I learned the hard way how to do things.
Sorry, how
And
old are you?
I'm 40. I'm kidding. I'm
Oh,
kidding.
okay.
I'm
Well,
30. I'm 30. I'm
okay.
kidding.
That's quite a bit to get done by the time you're 30.
Oh, I'm not
That's
done yet. I then realized that the Oni Press, the great publisher, they were doing this contest of trying to bring in new creators, and so the only caveat was it had to be short form series or and not superheroes, which of course is what I had been doing this whole time. So I thought of two ideas called Home and 10,000 Miles, and I got both got rejected, which are fine. So I went to Kickstarter, got them all funded, so that was an extra six. And then I met up with two epic ladies, Tamara Robertson and Dr. Tracy Fanara, and we started to make a science comic called Seekers of Science. Did four of those. In the meantime, cool. I started writing some Sherlock Holmes novels, which is public domain, so I could totally do. And now I'm doing Tokyo. So I've been a busy boy.
So did the comics lead to the writing, or were you already interested in creative writing as like a little kid?
Oh, writing is like the one thing I'm good at. Writing's
yeah.
Like, I can't do math. I've got a great memory for history, which is part why I do Tokyo, because I love the history of Japan.
The love of stories, right? Yeah.
Oh, I love it. I love history, love stories, love epic conquests and stories of revolution and all that kind of thing. And I've always written well. Which I know is a horrible actual grammar-wise sentence, but I'm terrible at grammar, which is a very wrong thing to say for a writer. But I've always just liked the creative process. Like, I would watch TV shows like Power Rangers and Pokemon, which one of them I still watch today. And it's Pokemon. But I would what would my Pokemon story be? And so I came up with an idea, and I started thinking of ideas, and I would do that all my shows, because writing and this creative process just came naturally to me. It's my one gift to the world outside of this fro. So, which is slightly hampered.
Cool, man. Yeah. It's beautiful. It's glorious.
Yeah. If it wasn't for the headset, you'd see it in full froness, but whatever.
It's kind of like that's how most artists start out, is kind of is basically recreating art that they enjoy, copying other people's stuff. And that's cool that you kind of,
that's half of Artist Alley.
Yeah. Your practice was fan fiction, sort of, right?
Which is more true than you realize, because one of my favorite shows growing up was Avatar: The Last Airbender. Okay. And then when Legend of Korra came out, I was full on into thinking mode. What would my Avatar story be? So the end of season 1 happens. I'm just like, I'm going to write 2 chapters and I'm going to put it out there. And I put it on IGN because they had a blog at the time. And I was just like, here's my story. Just tell me what you think. And the first comment was, dude, this is so wrong. I want more of this. And I'm like, oh, okay. That's and it was a comment as a compliment, obviously. It's wrong how good this fanfic is. And so I'm like, okay. And so the comments just kept coming. And so I was like, okay, let's write another episode. And I'm like, well, I got to kind of connect these episodes. So I wrote basically 60 chapters of this fan fiction over the course of about a year and a half, which is about how long it took from season 1 of Korra to get to season 2 of Korra. So I was already ahead of the curve. And by the time I got done, I had dedicated fan base. I had people wanting more of it. I actually had an animation video made of the intro sequence, right, because I wanted this to be the 3rd series in the Avatar story. And I was like, well, I've written this. This is the longest thing I've ever written. What else can I write? So I started writing screenplays for a Shazam TV series that I wanted to make, and then eventually just became comics, and it's been going ever since. So I owe my life to fan fiction and Avatar.
That's awesome. See, I'm just like, when I was in anime, years ago, it was still like the Akira days, right? And Akira. I never really experienced Avatar and a lot of the stuff that's happened in the last decade or two.
It's on Netflix.
Yeah, I know. And exactly why I bring it up is that I have a 9-year-old who is an anime freak. He's an amazing artist, but all he draws is anime. But he's all about Death Note and My Hero Academia.
Classic.
And Naruto is the big also one classic for him right now.
Wouldn't that be Boruto?
I don't know.
It is.
Isn't there both?
Well, there is both, but the current one running is Boruto.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, he's always watching the Shippuden one or whatever.
Okay, there you go. That's Naruto
on Netflix. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I know I enjoyed it because I don't know any better, but I enjoyed the movie version of Airbender, of The Last Airbender, because I didn't know any other. I didn't know anything else. Okay. It's a cool story. I liked the idea of the elementals and these tribes. Yeah. It felt like a kid's movie, and it wasn't as fantastical as well as made as it probably could have been. But I wasn't just aware of the idea behind The Last Airbender, that there were elementals and tribes. So I just thought that was a super cool idea. And now that my kid is getting into all this, I think, he hasn't gotten to the point where he's mentioned Airbender, but I said the other day, I was like, look, we have the chance to sit down and binge all this stuff right now. I really think we should be sitting down and watching Airbender because it seems to be having a resurgence lately too.
Oh, yeah, it's one of the eternal animations, which is interesting when you really think about it because it's an American show based on more or less, Asian culture.
Right.
And it's basically what we call American anime, which is, like this, Ruby, and certain other programs. And yeah, you totally should watch it. And then Legend of Korra was announced to be coming to Netflix as well. That one wasn't as well received for various reasons, but the original is still timeless. So definitely check it out. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I think we're gonna because I do love the idea, man. And then there's
Yeah,
this one kid who's like the unifier, right? He's like the one who can
that's the
bend
Avatar.
all the yeah, that just all of them. I think they're
Yeah.
all great ideas, man.
Trust me, I'm sure I'll come on your show again, but watch Avatar, and then when I come back, your first words better be, "I'm so sorry I said the movie was good." So,
Okay, all right, it's that much better. All right, cool.
well, let me put it this way:
And
when the movie was announced, we were hesitant. Then we found out M. Night Shyamalan was doing it, and we were scared. But then he did an interview saying that if I screw this up, my kids are gonna kill me. And I'm like, okay, that's motivation enough. And then the movie bombed because it was horrible. And it was like my friend, swear to God, my friend Ro, who I used to watch Avatar with, he called me after he got out of the theater. He goes, "Hey, dude, have you seen Last Airbender yet?" I'm like, "No, I probably wasn't gonna go see it." And it's like, "Good, don't." He called me right outside the theater to warn me to not go. I'm like, so watch the show. It's much better. Trust me.
all right, sounds good. Aren't they? I heard they're making a live action
Yes,
Airbender
but
show.
but,
Yeah.
but this one is actually alongside one of the original creators. Okay, so they're
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
so that's the big difference. Otherwise, we'd be scared all over again. But no, this one
Right.
is it. But then again, we also haven't heard anything in like 2 years. So
Oh, it's been that long. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
after what happened with the Shyamalan film, you got to get this right.
Right. Right.
Right.
Well, diving into Tokyo Blade Detectives, it is obviously anime inspired.
Yes, I call it
Um,
an anime comic.
right. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
You were kind enough to send me the first two issues there to peruse. And I really, really enjoyed it, man. I think
Means a lot.
my favorite part was the characters. I thought they were unique without being over the top. I thought they were original without trying too hard.
Mm,
And it was a lot of fun,
yeah.
You've obviously got some writing and practice behind you because the dialogue was very natural and, it all made sense. And it's a cool story. So um, I wouldn't call it manga or anime,
Mm.
definitely inspired by. Would you agree?
Well, it's like I said, I call it an anime comic because I wanted it to feel like an anime, kind of sound like an anime, and even look like an anime. Like the reason this series took so long to make for me, like I had the idea for over a year, and the problem was that I was already making other comics, and I couldn't just drop those to do this one. And so then when I started to do it, I had an artist, thought he was perfect, and then because he did this perfect concept piece, and then he starts going into the comic, and it just doesn't look the same. Like Miko, who's our main character, she didn't look right, and like everything felt like way too cartoony, and so I had to let him go. And I found another guy, Lam Vivon, who's the main artist on the series, and he just kills it. Like it's not even funny how well he kills it. I love Lam's work, yeah, it's technically a comic because manga reads right to left, and we go left to right. Obviously, it's my version of an American anime. Let's just put it like
Well, let me tell you about one of the reasons I love this book. Besides the quality of it, the art is fantastic. And
Thank
I
you.
really want to hear about the team and who's doing, because it's a really good meld. The colors, everything all together works very beautifully. So you'll have to tell me about your team in a sec. There is a book here in Toronto, and it's not at all story. I just had a voice crack. That was funny.
We all have those days.
Yeah. I haven't been talking enough lately. Excuse me. And this book is exactly in the same spirit as your book, but not at all story-wise. But what it is, it's called Yuki versus Panda, and it's by my very good friend Graham Miserak. He's a fantastic independent creator here in Ontario, Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, volume 4, I believe, is about to come out.
Cool.
So basically, this little girl whose grandfather is a samurai, when she's young, he takes her to the zoo where she encounters a little baby panda in a cage.
Mm-hmm.
They have an awkward interaction where she kind of teases the panda and insults the panda's honor and, is a little bit of a mean brat to the panda. So years later, the panda grows up and breaks out of the zoo and seeks revenge. Okay. So that's the premise that has now spawned 4 volumes of comic books.
Wow.
And so the story, not the same, but the anime inspiration, same thing like you're saying, it's an anime comic. It's not manga. It's not straight up Japanime. It's not anything other than a comic that, it's all in English.
Yeah.
But like yours, it's just like set there. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not that important to the situation as story wise, but that's what struck me about yours. I was like, hey, I haven't seen anything like this since Yuki versus Panda. So the only reason I mention it being in that vein is because it's something I really enjoy. That's really fun. That I'm surprised not a lot of people are doing.
Well, it's just for me, I grew up on a whole bunch of either anime or, Japanese inspired cartoons. And like I grew up on Pokemon, I grew up on Digimon, I grew up on Dragon Ball Z. My favorite anime ever is Outlaw Star. And so when I was thinking about Tokyo, I wanted to make as many references to all of these shows and movies and other things as I can. So obviously, you got samurais, and I try to blend it all with their history. So like the 5 factions, which I probably should do an overview of the series, but we'll get to that in a second. But like all the 5 factions are directly tied to Japanese culture, whether it be the Empress, the Tao, which is a religion in Japan, or the yokai are obviously monsters. And from the Japanese folklore, you got the Ronin, where samurai without masters, and the Nine Tails, which is a reference to the nine-tailed fox, which your son would know about because that's Naruto.
I've heard of that one actually. Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's just, and I've got references to Digimon, I've got references to Pokemon, and
oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I'm gonna be introducing a character that is based off of the main character of the game, The World Ends with You, which was a very popular cult classic. Set in Shibuya, Japan, which is close to where we are in Tokyo. And that's just fun for me. It's like, I don't know who's going to get this reference, but someone will. Someone will.
Right.
So.
Excuse me. You can't deny a little bit of Star Wars influence in there. Are you a fan at all?
From a certain point of view.
Right.
No, love Star Wars.
Come on, lightsaber katanas. That's pretty badass.
Yeah, no, it's laser swords.
Sorry, right.
It's laser swords.
Right,
laser swords.
Yeah.
That was actually how the whole thing got inspired, because I kid you not, I was on Facebook, and like those memes that are what's your yada yada, insert first letter, first name here, last name.
Right.
Yeah. So I was doing that, and mine was, what's your anime called? And I'm like, I like anime, let's do that. So it was first letter of your first name, T. First letter of your last name, B. Last letter of your first name, D. So TBD. And I'm like, okay, what's that? And he goes, Tokyo Blade Detectives. And this was right after Deadpool had gotten released, the movie. And so I have the trailer stuck in my head. And so I go, Tokyo Blade Detectives sounds like a franchise. And I hit enter and I left the page. And I was like, that's it, I'm done. About a couple hours later, I go back onto Facebook and I get a reply from a person I don't know. And I'm like, who's this person? So I go back and it goes, it's for that meme. And I go, hey, that actually does sound like a franchise. You should do that. And I'm like, okay, let's think about this. So Tokyo, so it's obviously an anime. And detectives, okay, that's fine. But Blade, that was what was sticking with me, because I'm like, okay, detectives are modern era, so this have to be a modern day Tokyo. But why would the blades be there? Why would it be a sword when you can use a gun? And so the line hit me. In a world where guns are outlawed, only the blade can rule. And I'm like, that's my franchise. And so,
there you go.
And like literally the floodgates opened in my head of like what this comic would be. And so now here we are. And I love it. Now, for those of you who have not heard of this book, Tokyo Blade Detectives is set about 200 years in the future. Tokyo has been, Japan in general has been ravaged by war of both a world and civil nature. The country's basically been burned to the ground and rebuilt via technology. And there is one rule that everyone must follow without question, that is no guns allowed. So to kind of fill the power vacuum, they use their technology to make laser swords to, keep everybody safe. But the problem with that is that just about anybody can get a laser sword if they work hard enough, which has given the rise to 5 factions who are trying to vie for power in the capital of Tokyo. And so, they're constantly fighting each other. They're constantly fighting the government, and all the people are caught in the crossfire. And it's just trying to live in this technologically advanced world that is also regressing back into their more feudal days, which you'll see in the looks and the outfits and, of course, the swords. And Miko is our main character. She's a 16-year-old, I want to say girl, but she acts like a punk. But she's our 16-year-old protaganist, and
she's quite badass.
I love her
Yeah.
so. And she's just trying to make a buy as a detective, and just trying to survive in this craziness that is Tokyo. And she gets a case in the first issue that is going to change things forever. And I'm not going to spoil much more than that, but that's the general.
A lot of fun. Yeah, no, she's badass, man. She's a lippy little thing.
I love
it. She's fun to follow along.
With all of my stories, I try and do something different with my main characters. My first 2 characters were my guardians, Element and Chaos, and they're very brotherly, the perfect characters, which I know doesn't exist, but it's defined in a certain way in the story. My second one was Home, and I wanted Elite, and her name, and the main character was a girl named Alicia, and I literally defined her as the most relatable girl ever. She just has blue hair. And which I call instant girlfriend material. I'm just saying. Right. Then with 10,000 Miles, I made actual brothers who were geniuses in their own right. And then Seekers of Science was a little different because those are actual people I based it on. But with Miko, I wanted the most lippy, like you said, punk character ever. She'll tell you what she thinks. She's a blunt object and she's good at it. And that's, many people have said they love Miko because of how much lip she gives people, and it's just, she's so much fun to write. So
I'll bet, because you really don't have to listen to reason when you're writing her, probably, right? She can just bull ahead and seems she doesn't care. She's got what's in her head, and that's what she's following.
Yeah. And as we'll see in the next issue, there are more layers to Miko, which a lot of people are asking. It's like, was she born this way? I'm like, no.
Well, that's what's cool is you've left a lot open, which I'm assuming is going to get revealed as the series goes on. But you kind of start with a bang, and you're like, okay, who is this chick? How has she become this way? Why is she this way? Why does she have these skills? Mm-hmm. And I like that the story opens and you don't find it necessary to necessarily, start the story with a whole bunch of explanation, and I like it. It tells me we'll figure it out as we go, if it even matters, right?
It's like I said, it's very anime in that, you could start with the origin story, or you can just bull your head into it and then slowly watch the pieces come together, which is how I've
always
watched.
The most fun, right?
Yeah. We, ironically enough, in issue 3, we are going to learn a tiny bit of Miko's backstory, but probably not what you're expecting. Because if you recall the last page of the second issue,
loved it.
Yeah, we meet one of the other factions who are the yokai, and they are my terrorists. They are the living embodiment of fear. They have one goal: to screw with everybody and cause as much havoc as possible. And how they do that, which I will not spoil, is so fun to see visually. And
visually, sorry, what's your artist's name again?
Lam Vuvan.
Lam Vuvan does a great job with the action.
Yeah.
Especially the sword sequences, I think, are very, very well done and very clean, very easy to see. And when you see that last page in issue 2, it's going to either lead to 2 things. It's going to lead to an interesting lippy conversation, or standoff type situation, or it's about to be on. And I'm curious to see which way it goes, but don't really care which way it goes, because either way I think is going to be badass, right? It's either going to be a cool conversation or it's going to be melee, because there's fucking 15 of those guys on that last page or whatever, right? So I'm looking forward to it, man.
But the yokai are something I've been building to for 3 issues in a certain sense. And actually, I have here's number 2. That's the yokai right there. Like
Okay, yeah.
that was the hidden image, and there's like, well, who's that? That's the yokai. And the yokai have a certain ability. That's all I'll say. They have a certain ability that makes them quite terrifying. And when we were drawing the reveal page, if you will, the first one just didn't look as good. It was, too janky. It wasn't flowing. And so, I talked it over with my editor, Casey, and we're like, this, it needs to look like this, and it needs to look like this. And then he killed it the second time. And then throughout it, it's just when they use this ability, it's just so crazy. And it's so anime. It's not even funny. Like, I really wanted
Nice,
this to look
nice.
like the coolest anime characters
Well, I
ever.
love to hear that you're using an editor, right?
Oh, yes.
So,
My editor is a Casey Pierce.
oh,
She actually,
Casey's editing this.
oh, that's right. Yeah, I told you
Oh,
that.
this is
But
how, sorry, this
yeah,
is
that's all
how
right.
this, okay. I knew
Yeah.
that she had sent you my way.
Yeah,
I
she's my
didn't
editor.
realize she was editing.
Yeah,
Sorry.
she's my editor as part of a Red
Oh,
Pen
that's
Media.
fantastic.
Y-
Absolutely.
yes,
Yeah.
she is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she loves this series a lot, and she wants to see it succeed. And so, but yeah, I trust. She's a fellow writer, and for those of you who don't know her, weren't there when she was on An Elegant Weapon.
Well,
She's part
yeah,
of
there's
a
very few people who are familiar with this show that aren't going to be familiar with
yeah.
Casey.
Yeah, well, she's part of Source Point Press, who I'm also really good friends with, and she's just an awesome person in general, great writer, and I trust her instincts. And so when I had her, I was actually David Hayes,
Hmm.
if you know him, he was my editor on one,
Okay.
uh, and he was excellent help in fleshing it out, and he came up with one of the best pages in the issue, and he had to bow out in two, and so I went to an old friend of mine named Jane Curry, and who's also a novel editor, and then she bowed out, and which was fine. And then Casey comes up to me and goes, "I'm your editor." I'm like, "Okay."
Well, it's a very important and misunderstood thing nowadays. I mean, it's getting a lot more attention, and people realize how important it can be to have an editor.
Yeah.
So, it's a smart move to make. In fact, it's funny that your editor's editor just won an Eisner Award.
Who?
That would be Allison O'Toole, and she is a Toronto editor, and she edited Cirrus by
Oh,
Casey and J. Cott.
that's cool.
Allison O'Toole is behind the woman's anthology Wayward Sisters.
I know of that one.
Yeah, and she also just edited the Afterlift Comixology digital comic by Chip Zdarsky and Jason Liu
Yeah, I've heard of
and
that.
Paris Aline. Basically, what that Afterlift comic was like a Toronto super mega force. So Chip Zdarsky, who's a Toronto boy, he got together some of the well known here, but internationally lesser known guys, but all like kids on the cusp, right?
Mhm.
Like Jason Liu's famous for a comic here called The Pitiful Human Lizard, which is it's an absolutely amazing autobiographical comic, and colorist Paris Aline, also brilliant. But Allison was the editor on Cirrus, and she just won an Eisner for editing that Afterlift comic for
That's
best
cool.
digital comic, right?
That's very
Like she
cool.
didn't win best editor. The comic won best digital comic.
Oh, okay.
So a comic that she edited
Yeah.
won best digital comic, and she edited Cirrus for Casey, and Casey's,
My editor.
now she's your editor. So it's cool how the talent trickles down. You know what I mean?
Well, it's all interconnected when you really think about it.
Well, how did you meet the Source Point kids? Where did you meet David and
C2E2.
Casey? Oh yeah, right on.
It was before my RS Alley days. Actually, no, it was during one of my RS Alley days. I was on Twitter. I was roaming the floor, just taking a small break, and I had a tweet that said, I can't remember who had it, but it was like, see these people at C2E2, and it was like Source Point, Aftershock, and certain other ones, and I'm like, I don't know some of these people, and this is when I was really trying to get into, the comic industry, like the publisher, which I'm still trying to do. And I literally see that, and I look up, and there's Source Point. I'm like, snap, like that was easy. So I go on and I meet Travis McIntyre, and we strike up a great conversation. And I was like, I'm a writer. I'm trying to break into certain publishers. And he goes, well, here, let's exchange cards. So we had a conversation, and that's where I met Casey and Bob Saley and David Hayes and all of them, Levi and Josh and all of them, the great people. And I'm trying to get in with them. I might have something in the future with them. It's unclear. The lockdown doesn't help, obviously, because they're very much a group that's dependent on cons because they do so many over a year. But
it's weird being stranded right now, right?
it's
Because
so
I'm
weird.
I'm the Canadian ops manager for Source Point Press.
Really?
Yes,
Nobody tells me these things.
I run all the Canadian shows out here.
That's cool.
So it's difficult for me right now because I'm very, very cut off from my core family out
Same
there,
here.
right?
Like
And
2020 was supposed to be a big year for me,
it's
not just because of
difficult,
Tokyo, but like sales wise, I had an epic 2019, like
right?
profit all over the board.
Yeah.
And 2020 was supposed to be, I got Tokyo, and I got Seekers of Science about to come out with a volume and everything, and
I'm
then
really, you're gonna have to tell me about that another time. I'm really interested in that Seekers of Science that you keep
we might
talking
have time.
about. But
We might have time. But
we'll get into that. But yeah, I mean, odds are we met at C2E2 and had an entire conversation that I probably don't remember because I was
it's
far
possible.
too stoned or full of pints at the time. I
It's
get a
okay.
little bit fuzzy at the convention. Well, C2E2 for me is a non-working con.
Oh, there you go.
Right, because I only go out to C2E2 to kind of see the fam and hang out and have an awesome time and actually do, I do press for this show and I do interviews, but I'm not there for Source Point, which means I'm just free to have a good time, right?
Yeah.
And so C2E2 for me is always just like a giant party con. I don't remember a lot of it every year because it's one of my getaways. Like, because that rarely happens, right? Most shows I'm at, I'm working in some capacity, whether it's hosting or moderating or trying to slot comics to the public. You know what I mean? So
I've been to RS Alley 4 times in C2E2 over the last 7 years, and while I love it, when I got to be a fan again for 2 years because I got rotated out, if you will, it was so worth it because I'm doing panels again.
It's
I'm
nice,
seeing
eh?
it's nice. And then
Yeah.
then I did this year, and it was totally great. I was doing a variety of things trying to plug myself, and I had my most successful C2B2 ever, period. And it was just awesome. But there was also points where I was like, I really wish I was a fan, so because I missed certain things I totally wanted to do. But I made it work, and so I totally get it because C2E2 is my con. I go to it every single year ever since I started, and so I
Sure,
totally get
yeah.
wanting to be the fan and just enjoying life.
Yeah.
And if that's what you do it there for, then power to you, man.
C2E2 at least, I mean New York kind of, but I'm
I'm
usually
trying. I'm
helping
still
out in
trying
New
to get to
York.
New York. I'm still
New
trying. I
York's a
haven't made it there
trip,
yet.
man.
I
Take
bet.
C2E2 and times it by 8.
That's fair.
Yeah, it's an
So
epic thing. But you have to, if they ever open the borders again, you have to get your ass up to Fan Expo
yeah,
in Toronto as well,
there
man.
are
It's quite
ones.
epic to
Yeah,
itself.
there are a few in Canada. I have heard great things about Fan Expo.
Yeah, well, we
And
just did our first Source Point Press did our first Vancouver Expo this year
cool.
and sold the fuck out. Everything I brought, like literally, the table was absolutely bare. I didn't bring a damn, not a game, not a card, not a comic. Like nothing came home. We sold out of all Deepwater N3 and Source Point products. Vancouver was a smash for us. Like just so welcoming. There's a huge gaming community out there too. The mats, the N3 mats.
Yeah.
That we sell, the desk mats. I couldn't even keep them on the table. They were
That's
flying.
awesome.
It was unbelievably cool. So
that's the dream.
I want to hear about your team. How'd you meet them? Where'd you find them? How'd you come together?
So I found myself in a forest. I'm kidding. No, I obviously I'm the writer creator of the series. Casey, I just explained our origin story where we met via Source Point at C2E2 and beyond. Lon Bouvan I met on Facebook, where I found many great artists and people. I was on a Facebook group looking for an anime artist. He was one of the many who applied, and I singled him out, and we've been working together ever since. My letterer is Zach Som, who is a major letterer in the industry in his own right. He's worked for DC, he's worked for IDW, he's worked for others, and
how'd that happen?
Internet. I met him on Twitter, it was Twitter because he had a. Do you know Heather Ontos?
Yes, I do.
Okay, well, they were together at the time, and we just hit it off on Twitter. I met them ironically at C2E2, and eventually I said, Zach, I know I'm not working with you right now, but I promise I will in the future. He goes, oh, that's cool. So he was my letterer on home for most of the issues. And then when I did Tokyo, I knew I wanted this to be like my top level quality of piece I have ever done. And so I knew I had to get Zach on here. So he lettered all three of them. He's getting me the letters for number 3 right now so I can re-upload them to the Kickstarter before we launch on Saturday and August 1st. And like he's just really good. He really brings out the feeling of the letters, and it's really awesome. And then my cover artist is Alex Garcia, who has been with me since Guardians. He's literally my go-to artist. He is my Greg Capullo. And yes, that means I am Scott Snyder. You're welcome. So, but yeah, he is my go-to guy. I always go to him for work when I absolutely need it done. And the only reason I didn't do it with him with Tokyo is because I wanted to just do with someone different. I'm trying to, give work where I can. And but I'm still working. Alex is my artist on Secrets of Science, so he's covered on that front. But he just really, his covers are so good. He has like such detail and everything, and I love it. So that's my team, and I'm honored to work with every single one of them.
So who's coloring?
Lom does all the
interior
he's
doing
art.
It all, eh? Pencils, inks,
colors.
Every little bit of it, eh?
Yeah, and then Alex does the cover art because I trust him on that.
Fantastic. And how long's he been at it? Because
Lom, I honestly don't know. He said he was looking for more. He said he's done comics before, which I note on our Meet the Team page on the Kickstarter, and he's just continued looking for work, and he just.
And where's he at?
He's in Vietnam.
That's right. You said that. That's crazy, man.
That is crazy.
Yeah, no, you find the nuttiest artists in the coolest places, man.
Yeah. Alex is from Mexico. I've worked with the guy from Singapore.
Yeah.
Zach
Brazil's popular for cheap, talented artists.
Yeah. And Zach's in Michigan. I have a friend named Beth. She did Home. She was in Washington D.C. area, but I've had people reaching from Britain,
cool, man.
Various countries in Europe, and
yeah, that's awesome.
I have backers from Australia. I've got Russia, and the world comes together when it comes to comics,
man. Absolutely, it's a global passion for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. How far do you want to take this? Is this just going to be ongoing? Do you have an end in sight? Do you have a plan? Volumes, issues?
Well, for Tokyo, it's what I want this to be an ongoing series. So, issue number 3 is the technical end to the first arc. We do have a little bit of a twist in issue 4, which is something I've never done before. In terms of the twist, not issues 4. I've done more than 4 issues before, but I'm doing the story a little bit differently. But it is going to be an ongoing, and my goal is to get to issue 4, which is the true end, and then I'll start shopping around, hopefully to publishers, and I want to see if someone will pick it up. And if they do, great. If not, then I'll just keep going because I've got a lot of ideas. Like the nature of Tokyo, which I emphasize on the Kickstarter, is everything is changing. Every arc, something big happens that just sends ripple effects, and everything just keeps growing. It keeps advancing, and it's a beautiful thing. So if I have to do this Kickstarter by Kickstarter until I run out of it, I will do that because I love this series.
That Yuki versus Panda I mentioned.
Yeah.
There are some very, very cool things coming. Some things I can't speak of, but one I can is that there is an animated series in production.
Oh, lucky! I want this to be like an animated series.
Right,
no
right.
Joke, I totally do.
No, you gotta. I'll send you links to this and everything. I can't even tell you how much in the same spirit that both your guys' work is. Like, I think you just get off great because he's done all 4 volumes through Kickstarter.
That's incredible.
All self-published. It's Duskleaf Media, and he just loves it. And you know what? He does it purely for the passion of it. He just loves this comic, and it's a well-loved comic around here. But yeah, you can do it, man. You can take it that far just through Kickstarters. It's a very easy method. And don't tempt me.
Yeah,
don't dare me. I'll fucking
bro.
do it. I'll make this comic forever, man. I hear it. Yeah.
Home was 5 issues, all of them successful Kickstarters. 10,000 Miles was a graphic novel, got that on Kickstarter, did it, and then this would be my 3rd one. So just between these two,
you know what you're doing, yeah.
I know what I'm doing, and And because of the lockdown, I actually postponed the launch because I know I'm trying to help people out here. So I actually have my lowest Kickstarter goal ever for 3 because I don't want to push people into trying to give big amounts of money.
Yeah, so you're even kind-minded. How much are you shooting for? What's the goal?
$750, which is totally doable, especially since
$750.
No, 750,000. Yeah, $750.
That's insanely low.
Yeah, well, like I said, I'm trying to help people, and the last 2 times it was like 1,500, and then I did 1,000 just because I wanted to be nice, because I wasn't sure if people would come back because of the nature of the series.
Shit, man, we're gonna do that in a day.
I would love nothing more.
We're gonna do that in a day. Listen, kids, whether you few people are watching right now, and I apologize, we actually threw this together kind of last minute.
Yeah.
So I didn't get a chance to advertise to all you fine folks that we'd be doing this, but once it's actually, this is just the fun of doing it live in case people pop in. In fact, Crystal Hope says she so wants to read this. Okay. So I'm sure we've at least got one in the bag there. Okay. But again, within days, I'm going camping for the next 2 days. But on Friday, when I get back, this will be posted to YouTube. You kids will be able to watch this exact video on YouTube, as well as on all the usual podcast platforms like iTunes and Spotify. And we will push the hell out of this because I really enjoyed it, man. And I think it's what we need right now. It's a lot of fun. Yeah. Like I said, it's very escapist. It's very original, Yeah.
And for Crystal, if you want to make sure you don't forget to get this, I sent our dear host a preview link that you can go
posted it. Yeah, it's right there in the comments.
Go to that link, and you can sign up for notifications for when it launches. It's launching at 12:01 on August 1st. And if you're wondering what rewards I'm offering,
tell us a bit about what's in the package. What can we get for our dollar?
I've got a lot to offer. So for those of you just like digital comics, I've got $3 and $5 rewards to get a PDF of the comic. For people like Crystal who have not read the series so far, I have a $5 digital reward. We can get all 3 issues for just $5. So it's a perfect way to catch up on the series. For $10, you'll get a physical copy. So if you want to get physical, so many jokes. If you want to get the physical copy, there you go. That's where you can get that. But I also have other rewards, including a $15 reward where you'll get every single comic I've ever made digitally, and I have one.
Really?
Every single one. That's 30 plus comics for $15 digitally, and then we have a physical one that's $150 because mailing. But
right.
Especially overseas, which I have done. But we also have like combination packs where you can get a physical copy and all the digital comics. I have a reward that's easily my most popular. I will draw you into the comic. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's $50, but you will be drawn to the comic, but it's only for 10 people because it's, especially in this issue, there's not a lot of room to draw.
That's always fun, man.
Yeah. And then I also have rewards where I will help you make comics, including listening to your pitch and helping you refine it so that you can make it, or even working with you step by step so you'll get it done. That's for $75.
These are great rewards, man.
Yeah,
these are fantastic. Crystal also said, amazing. I absolutely will get physical. LOL. Oh, I want to get physical for sure. So Crystal Hope wants to get.
I mean, I'm single, maybe. I don't know you, Crystal, but you never know.
I'm familiar with Crystal here, and I don't know, Crystal. Maybe he's that one that you were talking about the other day that we're all on the search for. You never know, that one that could be handy to you. But, Crystal actually here is a wonderful cosplayer.
Oh, love cosplayers. I got so many great cosplay friends. Maybe you can cosplay one of my characters.
I was just about to say, Crystal is about 2.5 feet tall. No, that's not true. She's not that short, but she is a cute, lovely, adorable little thing who would probably make a great Miko, actually. Crystal. Awesome. So make sure you look at that link there and hook yourself up. And kids, this was a really, really fun read. I really, really enjoyed it. And it's what we need right now. It's not over serious. It's pure badass fun. And like I say, my favorite part about the book was the originality of the characters.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed them, man. You came up with some cool cats, you know,
Yeah,
like
I
from the
love my
Empress
characters.
and the
I
other.
love the Empress.
Yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
It's
Love, you'll like this anime reference. I am endeavoring to make Tokyo Blade Detectives like Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood was, in
okay.
regards to all of
Right.
their characters mattered. You know, Alphonse,
Right.
Edward, almost said Miko, Roy Mustang, and all of them. Every character mattered, big, supporting, or one-off. They always seem to matter, and that's what I'm going with here. So from Miko to Michio to the Empress to the yokai, everyone has a purpose, and they're all gonna get fleshed out. And that's what I really love about this series, is that everything matters. Every story matters. Almost every interaction matters,
Right.
because it
Right.
just keeps adding to the story, and I love that.
When you one more question about the
By all
book
means.
itself. When you were designing the characters, how much of the visual aspect do you put into it? Or do you work with your artist, or do you just say this is an idea, go nuts?
I do a little bit of both. I do a little bit of both. Like for Miko, do you ever watch Transformers Prime?
Yeah.
Okay, there was a character named Miko there, if you recall.
Right.
And
yeah.
she had the bobtails and everything. And I'm like, here's kind of a reference. You know, she's 16. You know, kind of angry. You know, slightly futuristic clothing. You know, go with that. And then for other ones like the Tau, I was like, you know, here's a slight reference. I actually used a Digimon reference for that one. I'm like,
well,
you know,
how does the Empress come to mind? Like, where are you like fire color? Like,
yeah. She is a reference to a Japanese wrestler named Asuka.
Okay, that makes sense.
And her character in wrestling is she is the Empress of Tomorrow. And I love Asuka. So
okay, yeah. It's a very weird, like David Bowie-esque kind of thing to that character.
Well, Asuka has a very similar look, where she has like this she used to come out in this very flashy like kimono like outfit, and she'd be like parading around to the ring as she entered, and it was just, I loved that so much. I'm like, if I'm gonna have a woman, especially in Japan, where they I needed to have this very over the top personality, and like there's no more over the top woman than Asuka, especially in how she looks. I'm like, now that one took some work because of like color schemes and everything, but like the sun on the back of her cloak was totally awesome. I didn't think about that, but someone did it, and I'm like, that's awesome. So it's sometimes it just works out that I know what I want. Other times it's like I'll just let my artists, you know, go crazy and, you know, think of how things will look. Often, especially for this one, I try to do references because I'm trying to not mimic, but be inspired by certain Japanese characters. Like
there's a lot of homaging in the book.
Homages. There we go. They're homages to characters.
Yeah.
And then sometimes they're just original creations. Like Michio, I did not have an idea for him. I said, think old school samurai, you know, kind of an old man look, and then draw. And they did, and I was like, that's perfect. Like one take, done.
Awesome. Well, it's come together beautifully, man.
Thank you.
I really appreciated reading it, and I can't wait to see what happens next.
Yep.
And that's
always
forward
to your pledge.
That's always the best sign of a comic book, kids, is leave you wanting more. And Mr. Todd Black, the writer of Tokyo Blade Detectives and a whole lot of other shit, has done exactly that for you. Todd, it was very cool to meet you, man. Thanks for hanging out and letting the kids know all the goodies they can get. Kickstarter, I have put the link right there. But otherwise, we'll put the link anywhere. And I'm sure if you just go to Kickstarter and type in Tokyo Blade Detectives, the appropriate things shall show up. So good luck with this. And I'm sure it's going to go awesome, sir.
I hope to talk to you again soon.
Kids, that is all we're going to have this week on An Elegant Weapon. Pack it ace.
Elegant weapon for a more civilized age.